It's a mimer on the Haftorah of Shabbos Parshas Re'eh. It's part of, as we know, there are from after Tisha B'Av until Rosh Hashanah, there's what's called Shiva de Nechemta. There's the 7 Haftorahs of consolation that Hashem consoles the Yidden. And right away, almost at the beginning of the Haftorah, some of the things that he speaks about is what it says in the pasuk that the Rebbe examines in this mimer. So, B'siyat Shmaya Shabbos Parshas Re'eh Mevorch Machodesh El Tav Shelam. It says, ושמתי כדכוד שמשותיך. I will make your שמשותיך. שמשותיך means from the windows. Why are windows called shimshei? So the Mefarshim explain because they let the shemesh through. Shimshei. So shimshei means the simple pshat is the windows. Kod, the Mefarshim say, is a type of precious stone. The Gemara discusses which particular type of precious stone it is. We'll talk about this momentarily. So in other words, instead of needing the illumination in the simple sense, instead of having the illumination come in through ordinary panes of glass, instead you will be so over the top, having all good things, that it will be kidkod, this precious stone called kidkod will be your windows. It's explained in the Torah of our parsha, the inner meaning of these besuris toivus. It says in the pasuk, Shem Shemog and Havai Elikim, that Shem Havai and Shem Elikim are likened to the sun and its sheath. Shem Havai Nikra Shemesh, the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is called the level of sun. In addition to the idea that Shem Havai is called sun, there's another thing that's called Shemesh. It says it will shine to you, Yirei those that have fear of my name. Shemesh, the sun, tzedakah umarpe b'knafeha, the sun that is tzedakah and healing in its wings. That's it. The sun is about tzedakah and healing. So we find that also tzedakah is called sun. So we have 2 things are called sun. One is Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is called sun, whereas the Mogin and Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is Alakim. Another thing is Tzedakah is called sun. V'zeu inyan Shimshoi Sayich, that's why it says Shimshoi Sayich. Shimshoi Sayich means your Shemoshim, whatever that is, in the plural. Beis Bechinas Shemes. There are 2 levels of sun. So these 2 levels of sun, which is Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and Tzedakah. Mamshech Levayer and Alter Rebbe to the Torah on our parsha continues to explain. Inyan Beis Bechinas Shemesh, these 2 levels of the sun of Havaya versus the sun of Tzedakah, one of them is from above to below. The other one, the second one, is from below to above. The idea behind this is the idea of the sun, which is tzedakah, who inyan Hashem. That's the sun that's from below to above. What does it have to do? Tzedakah refers to the general mitzvahs. Mitzvahs in general is about ascending from below to above. Allah's hanitzutzim, elevating the sparks. That's the idea of tzedakah in general. Tzedakah, we're taking my physical work, my physical money. Like Alter Rebbe speaks about at great length in Tanya, how through tzedakah, it's not just the money that I'm giving becomes elevated, but all the effort that I had to put in to work to be able to give that percentage of money is becoming elevated. And everything, in other words, tzedakah is symbolic of the entire idea of mitzvahs, which mitzvahs is about elevating the sparks. That's Momat Alamayla. Shezeu Sham mitzvahs nitnu b'dvarim gashmim dafke. That's the idea that mitzvahs were specifically given with physical matters. Tzitzis b'tzemer gashmi, tzitzis we use physical wool. Tefillin b'chlaf gashmi, tefillin we make it out of physical parchment, because the idea of all the mitzvahs is to elevate the sparks that's in physical things from below to above. Since we have to elevate the sparks from physical things to go from below to above, therefore we need to have the occupation and the performance of mitzvahs with physical things. Now, as we know, an Isrus Dolasata brings a Isrus Leila in its wake. By day, Isrus Dolasata Mulmata Abba, Isrus Leila, through the inspiration from below, that comes from below, comes about the inspiration from above. Hashem Shemalmaila Lamata, the sun that goes from above to below. Bechinas Shemesh Havaya, the level of Shemesh of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So now, the Rebbe is going to explain further, except for the obvious thing, it's Hashem, so obviously that's Milmaila Lamata, but specifically Shem Havaya indicates the idea of going from above to below. Why does Shem Havaya indicate the idea of going from above to below? Because Shem Havaya is Lashon Mahav. Shem Havaya is in the word that he brings into being. Shuhu HaMahav is Kol Yonim, he brings everything into being. So obviously, that's the idea of coming down from above to below. The Hainum, Ha'or is Shem Havaya, Shalamayla Gam Shem Elokim, the ray of Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's even higher than the name Elokim. Now we're going to connect this and say what sphere specifically these correspond to. So it says, Yon B'Spheres Shemesh Tzedakah Koyal Malchus. The level of Shemesh, which is tzedakah, goes on Malchus. Often Malchus is associated with the idea of tzedakah. It's sometimes considered like the poor person that's receiving tzedakah. It's lesler megam maklum. It has nothing of its own. It needs to receive from higher. And then the Shemesh Havaya, the level of Shemesh of Yud Kei Vav Kei, Koyal Zer Anpin. It goes on Zoh, on the Midas, on the spheres above Malchus. That's like also the Shemesh Magin often goes on the Midas, Zer Anpin, and Malchus are the Shemesh Magin. In this case, the Shemesh Mulmaila Lamata, that is Zer Anpin, the Midas, and the Halam Mulmata Lamaila, the level of Tzedakah, that's Malchus that rises up to receive. And then he goes on and says, Valzen Nemar, ושמתי כדכוד שמשותיך. So as I mentioned before, the Gemara discusses what exactly is a kidkod. And it explains, one opinion says that it's a type of precious stone called a shoyham stone. Another one says it's yashvei. These are stones that are mentioned in the Torah concerning the Mishkan, the levushim of the Kehanim, the Kohen Gadol. And then the Gemara says, you know what? Kidkod, you can break it down, leheve kedain v'kedain. It should be like these and these, or those and those. V'hainu kidkod, that's the meaning of the word kidkod. In other words, let it be that the shemeshutayich should be both things, should be both ideas, the yashvei and the shoyam. In our sense, what is it, the leheve kedain v'kedain? The leheve kedain v'kedain is not going on the machloikis, but kidkod is going on the shemeshutayich. There's two types of shemesh, we said. There's a shemesh malmai lamata of Yud Kei Vav Kei. There's a shemesh malmata lamai of tzedakah. So we're saying v'samti kidkod shemeshutayich. Kedain v'kedain should be both types of shemesh. V'hainu, this means shetzarechli is yichud beis havodas the malmata lamai lamata. There has to be the union of both types of service, from below to above and from above to below. To such a degree is there the union. So the Rebbe always emphasizes that when things come together in one word, that's not just by chance, not just, okay, it's nice that they come together in the same word, but the fact that they're coming together in the same word indicates that their union is so complete and indivisible. Until it becomes one word, that it's both avodas are included in one word. So that's the point. We have the avodah of above, we have the avodah from below, and both of them have to be joined together. What does that mean? Going back to the Sfiris, Ubesfiris Inyan Yichud Zal Malchus. We know one of the main Kabbalistic things that we always speak about is the joining between the joining of the Midas and Malchus, Yichud Zun, and that causes, when we have the joining of those spheres together, it causes the flow of Ashpah to come down. So this type of avoida, mata, in such a way that they're together, brings about a joining to make a yichud zun. That is the first phrase that the Rebbe is examining of our Haftorah. Then he goes on. After the perfection of Kod Shemshesayich, he says, from here we progress to a higher level. We have Yichud Zun, that's the Midas and Malchus. So now we're going to go higher than the Midas. Like it says in the continuation of the Pasuk, that your gates will be like Ekdach, means like a fiery type of stone. Again, it's talking like a brilliant type of stone. Precious stones will make up your gates. So according to Chassidus, it means it's explained that these gates are referring to the very famous 50 gates of Bina. So again, we're progressing. Not just Malchus, not just Yichud Zal Malchus, but we're going up to Bina. Further phrase in the Pasuk, because he continues in the Pasuk, all your boundaries will be designated or delineated by desirous stones, again, precious stones. It's explained in this is referring to the 32 paths of Chochmah. The inyan ha-nesivus shayach le-inyan ha-gvulim. The idea of paths is connected with the idea of boundaries, because a path, as opposed to a gateway, the Alter Rebbe says, is broad. Many people can go through it, but a path is very, very narrow and often very winding and so on. So the same thing, a gvul means a boundary, a limitation. So therefore, called givulech, the boundaries are referring to the Lamed Beis Nesivus HaChachma. From the Lamed Beis Nesivus HaChachma, we're coming to Avnei Chayfetz. What is this Avnei Chayfetz? And why does Chachma lead you to the Avnei Chayfetz? He says, Shal Yodam, through the Lamed Beis Nesivus HaChachma, through the level of Gevulcha, boim, we come top of page 171, second page of the copies, Avnei Chayfetz, to the level of the stones of desire, the Chayfetz, Inyan Ha'ava V'Acheshek. Desire is the idea of love and desire. The level of Chayfetz, its root is in the tainug part of the nefesh, the delight of the nefesh, that's even higher than the will of the nefesh. As we know, will is one of the koiches makifim, but tainug, delight, is even a higher level of koiches makifim. And we reach this level through Chachma. How do we attain? Like we said, Gevulcha Avnei Chayfetz. From Gevulcha, which is the Lamed Beis Nesivus HaChachma, that enables us to reach Chayfetz, the level of the Tainug, it's higher than the Rotz. How come? What's the association? Like it says, Pnimius Abba, Pnimius Atik, and Kabbalah is brought down that the inner level of Abba V'imas Chachma Bina, the inner level of Chachma is identical with the inner level of Atik. It's higher even than Chitzonius Atik. We know Atik is the level of delight in Keser. Atik and Arich, Atik is the level of delight. The level of Arich is the level of will, of Rotzen. And since Chochmah has this unique connection with Atik, and not just any level on Atik, but in Pnimius Atik, so therefore, Gevulcha, from the Lamed Beis Nesivus HaChachma, I reach to Avnei Chayfetz, I reach to the levels of the desire, the level of Tainug, Pnimius Atik. V'nimtza comes out, that this pasuk is talking about the praises of the Yidden. Shala'asid lava you behem milas elu. Then when Mashiach comes, they will have all these qualities. What are those qualities? Ubachlol and Gimel miles in general. These are 3 levels and qualities. ושמתי כדכוד, they will have the avoida of melmailo lamata melmata lamailo. And ושמתי, they will reach to the 50 sha'arim of bina. And they will have v'chol gvulei chavnei chefetz, that they will have the lamed beis nesivas hachachma, that will bring them to the great desire of pnimius atik. So the Rebbe always wants to connect the haftorah with the parsha, because in a simple sense, the haftorah of these 7 weeks, since they're 7 weeks of comfort, are not really related with the parsha, because they were established by the time of the year, not really connected with the parsha. So, therefore, since he wants to establish a connection with the parsha, here we go. We can connect it with a pasuk in the parsha of the week, in parsha Surah that it says over there in yesterday's chitas, Shmedaber b'shvochon shal Yisrael. That also in yesterday's Chumash, it also speaks about the praises of Yidden. And also v'gam boinis parsha gimel milas, also in it was explained 3 qualities. Shizel mashakasav, this is what it says in the pasuk, Ki am kodesh ato lavaya lekecha, because you are a holy nation for Hashem your God. And Hashem shows in you. Upirish Rashi. Rashi says an interesting thing. Seemingly, the pasuk speaks for itself. You're a holy nation for Hashem your God, and Hashem chose you. But Rashi feels that there's a need to elaborate upon this, and he says like this: Ki am kodesh atzma ata. First part of the phrase, he says, you are a holy nation. Why? So Rashi explains, you know why you're a holy nation? Kedushas atzmcha me'avisecha. Your holiness, you inherited for your forefathers. Then Rashi says, va'oid, and additionally, ubecha bachar havaya. And in you, havaya chose. And we're going to emphasize soon the word va'oid. But at least we see from Rashi that there's distinct qualities that the pasuk is talking about over here. Now, from Rashi, one might say there's only like 2, but the Rebbe is really going to break it down to 3. Yesh Leimer, we could say, Yesh Kan Gimel Milos, there are 3 qualities over here. Ha'alef, the first thing is, Kedushas Atzmecha, She Yisrael, and Goy Kodesh Misad Atzma. Your own holiness, that Yidden are a holy nation on their own. Stop. That's one level of holiness. Then there is another thing. Mei habeis is me'avisecha. The second thing is from your forefathers. So the Rebbe is like breaking down the lashon of Rashi and saying, it says, Kedushas atzmecha me'avisecha. In the simple reading of Rashi is, why do you have your own holiness? You have it from your forefathers. But the Rebbe is saying, you got to read the Rashi with a comma. There's Kedushas Atzmecha, and then there's a Kedusha that's Me'avisecha. Shezoi HaKedusha Sheba Mitzah Kedusha Avis. That's a holiness that results out of the holiness of the forefathers. Va'gimel. And the third holiness is Shebecha Bachar Havaya, that Havaya chose you. She'inyan ha'bechira b'Yisrael u'lamayla megidrei taimim v'azbar, is that idea that Hashem chose the Yidden is beyond the entire definition of reasons and explanations. It has nothing to do with the concept of intellect and explanations. Like it's known, the idea of choice. Where does the whole idea of free will come from? It comes from Hashem's very essence. That Hashem's essence, there is no prior cause to him. And he's beyond any type of form and quality, and therefore it's not possible to say that Hashem does something because he chose something because. There's no because when we're dealing with Hashem's essence. So the true idea of Bechira is the true idea of free choice when there is no because, and where is there is no because applicable when something is beyond any reason and any quality. So v'lechein ein lezeh shayches klal l'ma shekosav lifnei zeh ki am kodesh ata v'goymer. So therefore it has no connection with what it says beforehand, that you are a holy nation and so on, because a holy nation is a reason, and Bechira is beyond reason. So we say ki am kodesh, it must be something separate than what it says u'b'cha bachar. And the Rebbe says we could really find this in the expression of Rashi. This is also what Rashi wrote, and also in you Hashem chose. What's Rashi trying to emphasize? And also, so the Rebbe is going to contrast this with the way Rashi explains it versus other mefarshim. The Yesh Mefarshim, there are those Mefarshim that explain the pasuk as follows. When it says that Hashem chose in you, that's related to the holiness of the Yid. It says, because you are a holy nation to Hashem your God, that is the reason why Hashem chosen you. So therefore, Rashi, in contrast to those other Mefarshim, says no. For this, Rashi explains it's not that way. But rather, it's something entirely new. Why is it entirely new? Why don't you combine them? Because that's the great quality of the idea of choice. Of the idea of free choice does not come out of any type of advantage or quality of one over the other, because if there is, one is more special than the other, so then it's not free choice. I couldn't help myself. I had to take something that's the better one. Or if he's a contrarian, he's going to go and dafka take the worst one, if he's praving a skafia or whatever it is. The point is, true free choice is where there's no reason for it. So that's why Rashi says v'oy. One thing is ki kodesh ata, and another thing is me'avisecha, and then a third thing is higher than all of that. V'oy. Additionally, u'b'cha b'achar Hashem. V'chein moving gam v'divrei medrash shemei v'etzamach tzedek b'oyer Torah. This is also understood from the words on the medrash that Tzemach Tzedek brings in Oyer Torah. Yisrael nirdafim mipnei ha'akum. Yidden are chased from before the nations of the world. And Hashem chose Dafke the Yidden Shenemar B'cha B'char Avai, that Hashem chose you. In other words, the point is, in the Welt, people align themselves with the victor, with the hero, with the success story. The guy who's the guy that's suffering, the guy that's dealing with all types of issues, he's usually ignored. The Medrash says it's not that way. Yidden are nebuch the victims. And in other words, they don't have seemingly a quality to engender Hashem to choose them, and still Hashem chooses them. As Nirdaf, that he also brings from the words of the Medrash, that it says that Hashem will search out the one that's being chased. In other words, Dafka, the one that's suffering and so on, Hashem is going to look out for. It's the same idea, like over here, that the Yidden are suffering because of the nations. From this, it's obvious that where it says that in you Havaya chose, it's not related to what it said before, because you are a holy nation, because then what's the idea that it says that Yidden are being chased from the nations? Who cares? Yidden are a holy nation. That's why he chose them. From the fact that he says that the choice is related to the Yidden versus the nations being chased by them, so it must say that it's not from the holiness of the Yidden. It's a separate thing that the Yidden are being chosen by Hashem, the idea of choosing which is higher than Seichel.
Recording stopped.